That was just unbelievable. I might have shown myself, I might have screamed at the TV a few times and scared my family out of the house, but that's okay. If I get everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation from Pastor John Lowe of North Circle Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we pause. We take a moment to thank you for this city government that still values times like this to pause and to seek wisdom from something and someone greater than ourselves. So, God, we recognize that and we reflect on you in this moment. Thank you for those who have stepped forward to serve the city through their leadership and oversight. As this committee appoints leadership, reviews the financial health of Westfield, we ask that you would grant wisdom and peace and sound judgment in the decisions ahead. And would you remind each person here that their work ultimately impacts the daily lives of family throughout our community, guide their conversations and decisions toward what is just, responsible, and beneficial, both for the present needs and for future generations to come. And may their service be marked by integrity, by humility, and a shared commitment to the well-being of this city. And we pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
President Tam, would you like to run the meeting, please?
Thank you, Mayor. May we start with the presence of a quorum?
Chad Huff.
Yes. Here.
Victor McCarty.
Here.
Patrick Tam.
Here.
Kurt Wanninger.
Here.
John Dart.
Here.
Joe Deppner.
Here.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next order of business on our agenda is the approval of minutes from our February 9th, 2026 meeting. Assuming all have had the opportunity to review those, we need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from February 9th, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Waniger, second by Councilor McCarty. Seeing no other discussion, may we call the roll?
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Next order of business is the approval of claims. Assuming everyone's had the opportunity to review those, we need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve the claims.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor McCarty, seconded by Councilor Waniger. Seeing no other discussion, may we call the roll?
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. We do have some items on the agenda that will be changed this evening. We're removing for council consideration this evening ordinance 2604, as well as resolution 26107 and resolution 26108. We anticipate those will be back at the next council meeting. Director Todd, do we have any residents to wish to address the council this evening?
We do currently have one card, Chad Hughes.
Great. Mr. Hughes, great seeing you. It's 3 minutes. It's not really a back and forth dialogue, but we're glad you're here. But if you could state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Chad Hughes, 17118 Little Eagle Creek Avenue, Westfield.
Thank you, sir.
Council, Mayor, I come before you tonight because of the Town Road Crossing PUD that's you're going to be discussing tonight. One bit of information that I'm not sure was presented, and this was back in April, and I don't know if you're familiar with this document that was supposed to be discussed in workshop. It's regards to the property owners, which would be on the east side along Little Eagle Creek, west side of Little Eagle Creek as it runs. In regards to the buffer space and the floodplain woods line, it was here in the neighborhood input, but I'm not sure it was ever actually entered as official record. And what I mean by that is we wish to purchase or acquire that property that is up against our property line that go into the woods. And I don't know if you have this or you can show this to the council. It's not a clear property line because it is in the woods and it does meander through where we would like a clear delineation between property lines for this development. And we want it to be negotiated prior to your approval, which that has not been done. And what I mean by that, option, a price per acre, or acquired as part of it. It is also noted in that workshop that the green space would be credited if it were sold to us, because it's obviously in a floodplain. Can't do anything with it, you can't build structures and so on and so forth. So before we lose this opportunity to have this clarified, once you guys vote on it tonight, it'll be a moot point, and then we're at the mercy of the new development or builder once it's turned over. We want this opportunity to be able to have the good stewardship and neighbors to have a clear, defined property line between this development and our property. And we've discussed the concerns of the new property owners coming in and getting into our property, because it is very ambiguous. The woods, the creek line, it all changes. The property lines are not clearly set. And in fact, when you have had several surveyors come in, the property line is never the same. I mean, they're off by 30, 50 feet sometimes with the markers, because it's been surveyed a couple times. So with that, I just ask that we have that, one, entered, two, that it be approved that that would be the case, and three, set a option prior to, meaning a price point or acquired, not just once, yeah, I'll offer it to you at $500,000 an acre, something realistic, whatever that might be, but that has not been
Council
discussed
President,
with
it's been
us.
3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. We're all taking pictures of the information. I don't know if you want those documents
I
back.
printed it off, actually, my neighbor was able to give it to us, and so I'm just wanting to know, it may have already been discussed, but we were not aware of it, and we've not been contacted, at least I have not been, by current ownership or potential buyer.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you.
Director Todd, no other individuals. Thank you. We do have two special orders of business this evening. First, though, the mayor with the Disability Awareness Month.
Do we have somebody here from the disability? Yeah, they're in the back. Come on up here, ladies. I think it's working. So I made the mistake tonight of not grabbing my reading glasses. So this is going to be fun. We're going to have fun together. Hang in here with me, and I'll do the best I can. Here, you guys want to hold it? I think I could see. I'll be fine. I'm not wearing your slimy glasses. No way. All right, here we go. Whereas the city of Westfield recognizes people of all abilities to be an important and valuable part of our rich diversity. Whereas the city of Westfield also recognizes the different talents and experiences those with disabilities offer to our community. And whereas the city of Westfield reaffirms its commitment to creating environments, policies, and systems that welcome and support all community members, including those who live with disabilities. And whereas we must acknowledge as a community that there are systematic barriers that preclude those with disabilities from enjoying equitable experiences and living independent lives within their community. And whereas dismantling these barriers to create equitable, inclusive environments for all is a responsibility everyone shares. And whereas each Westfield resident should do their part. Oh my gosh, it got even smaller, didn't it? You want to read that for me? I think I can get it. See, recognize the valued experiences and contributions those with disabilities add to our community. Wow, that was really good. Understand the barriers and the financial, economic, spiritual, and community losses we experience when systematic barriers prevent contributions from those with disabilities. Find solutions to include everyone in all aspects of community life. Encourage the development of equitable policies and systems for everyone. That was hard. Thank you. We do. This is disabilities for blind people like myself. There you go. Now, therefore, I, Scott Willis, Mayor of the City of Westfield, do hereby proclaim March as Disability Awareness Month in the City of Westfield, Indiana, and urge all community members and policymakers to continue pushing forward for a more inclusive and equitable Westfield. In witness whereof, I, Scott Willis, hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the great seal of the city of Westfield, Indiana, on this 23rd day of February, 2026. Congratulations. Let me shake your hands first.
Well, we just thank you so much, City Council, Mayor, for this this focus that we make every year in March, and we're really excited for the upcoming codification vote that's coming. Can I say the date? Do we actually have it on the agenda? Okay, March 9th. The City Council meeting here at 7 o'clock. There'll be a vote to make this council part of the city code, part of the code. So definitely come back for that. And we're just really grateful for the support and look forward to continuing the work and doing a lot of celebrating this month for March Disability Awareness Month.
And no pressure on the council members behind me, but when I was on council, that codification did not pass. I will say every city councilor that ran for re-election got beat, so please keep that in mind. But I'm pretty confident this band of 7 behind me is going to look at it through a little bit different.
Mayor, we've already reviewed all the drafts, so yes, you're fine.
Very good. Okay, great. The pressure's off. See everybody back in March. Again, thank you for everything you do in our community. You guys are making huge impacts. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Though, on behalf of the council, that we are looking forward to that meeting upcoming as well, to take that proactive action as well. We appreciate that. Our next item is a presentation for the comprehensive plan from Urban 3, but before that, from our own planning department, Caleb Ernst.
Thank you, President, members of the council. So before you tonight, we're going to hear an introduction to the comprehensive plan. This is going to be covering the economics, the economic impact analysis of the comprehensive plan. So Rundle Ernstberger Associates, REA for short, is the main consultant that we have contracted to perform the comprehensive plan. One of their sub-consultants is Urban 3. They specialize in economic impacts to communities and that analysis. So Cynthia Bowen with REA is here in the audience representing REA. And Adam Carr is the principal coordinator with Urban 3. So he's attending virtually. And with that said, I will pass it over to Adam. Adam, are you on?
Yes. Can
Okay.
y'all hear me all right? Hello.
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
me?
can hear you.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Mayor, Council, good evening. Thanks for having me. Yeah, tonight I can walk through the presentation. Would y'all mind if I shared my screen? It might be a little more seamless, moving through slides and the visuals and everything, but if that's all right, but if y'all would prefer, I see the presentations up as well, so.
Yeah, that's fine, Adam, if you'd like to share your screen.
Okay, great, thanks. I'll start sharing now. Okay. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thanks very much for having me. Like Caleb mentioned, we were working with REA on the comprehensive plan process and focused on the economics of community design and economic analysis for Westfield, Indiana. Okay, so just y'all have seen our work up to this point and are probably fairly familiar with it, but just to kind of give a reminder, our work really focuses on this idea of productivity and efficiency with land use. And as a metaphor, one of the things that we like to do to kind of set the table for our work is thinking about how we compare cars. We don't compare cars in terms of how far they can go on a tank of gas because we know that different cars have different sized tanks. Instead, when thinking about efficiency and productivity, we think about this idea of miles per gallon, right? And we can see that different cars have this different miles per gallon metric that allows you to compare them on a more apples to apples basis. And so when we talk about land use and development in a community, we like to do the same thing, kind of getting this apples to apples comparison of how land is consumed. And so let's quickly dig into Westfield and Hamilton County. So here's all of the parcels in Hamilton County. You'll notice, and then there's the outline for Washington Township. You'll notice that a lot of the larger parcels are kind of in those purples and reds, so that high value. The greens are lower value and gray is non-taxable. And here's just a call out of some different properties in Hamilton County and Washington Township. And so this is that kind of miles per tank perspective on how land is used. And when we shift to that miles per gallon or value per acre perspective, you can see the map change, but really see what's going on when we take it into 3D. So you see Westfield there, and then some other nodes of highly productive development in Carmel, West Clay, Fishers, and Noblesville. And then here's a zoom in to Washington Township with some different properties called out. Chatham Hills, some townhomes on Midland Trace, and so on. From here, what we did is zoomed into the two trail corridors that go through Westfield and Washington Township. First, the Midland Trace Trail. This is a 1/4 mile buffer of all of the parcels along the trail, calling out some of those different developments and their associated value per acres. And here is the Monon Trail, and again, calling out some of those different developments. But what we did here is just a comparison of those two trail corridors. So similar taxable acres as they go through the township. A slightly different value, and then so different value per acres. But one of the things that we wanted to highlight is just the amount of vacant land along these trail corridors. And what that really represents is an opportunity for future productive development next to these trails. So next is a quick overview of the different land use types that we looked at in our analysis and some summaries. So here's a comparison of the average value per acre for these different residential types: single family, missing middle, and multifamily. And you can kind of see how they compare across all of Washington Township. Here, missing middle has the highest average of 2.1 million per acre. And actually, the peak parcel in Washington Township at the time of our analysis were these townhomes on Midland Trace Loop at about 14.5 million per acre. Next, we look at commercial lands, different commercial uses. And here's the average value per acre for these various commercial uses, ranging from small scale, big box, commercial centers, eateries, and Main Street commercial being the highest average at 2.7 million per acre. Next, we quickly looked at industrial and put it here on top. It slightly higher than that small scale commercial at 0.4 million per acre on average for industrial uses in Washington Township. Next, we looked at mixed use, and here's just a selection of some different vertical mixed use buildings. So where you have different uses stacked on top of each other. These are examples from Noblesville, so they have this slightly higher floor starting around 5.8 million up to 13.8, nearly 14 million. And then here's some from Carmel, 17.5 up to almost 20 million per acre. And this as a summary of kind of all the different land uses that we just looked at, what we call the Brady Bunch. So across the top, you'll see residential uses from low, medium, and high density, then commercial in the middle, and mixed use at the bottom. And they're kind of averages for these different uses. And here's how they stack up against each other on a bar chart. One of the things that is important to note, at the time of the analysis, there wasn't really any vertical mixed use in Washington Township or Westfield. And so these are the selections from Westfield itself that we looked at. Okay. So next is a quick breakdown of land uses and mapping those different typologies on the map and looking at value. So across all of Washington Township, there's about 32,500 acres. Of that, 44% is currently in agricultural use. About 35% is in single family, 7% commercial, 1.5% industrial, a little over 1% in multifamily, and about 0.5% in missing middle, with the remaining others uses at about 11%. This is things like, of course, Grand Sports Complex and other kind of civic uses. Here it's all together. And when we look at those various uses, including vacant land that may overlap with some of these uses, this is kind of the average that we see across these different typologies. If we were to just look at the developed acres, this is kind of how it shakes out in terms of those uses. And then what we want to do is kind of compare that into the physical footprint taken up in those acres versus the financial footprint of how much value they create for Washington Township. So single family, of course, the biggest footprint spatially as well as financially. But when we kind of do this comparison of that footprint versus value generation, we can see that single family is more productive than financially than the physical footprint that it takes up. But when you compare that to other land uses like missing middle or multifamily, it doesn't hold up the same. And especially when you look at this comparison in terms of physical footprint versus taxable value generated. So this kind of productivity in terms of taxable value, you see that become even more stark. Next, quickly moving to the fiscal audit analysis that we did, where we really focused on infrastructure and kind of costs of serving various portions of Westfield with kind of the two major infrastructure systems that this city is responsible for. And when we did this analysis, our framing really focuses on this idea of life cycle cost with three important questions. How much of these infrastructure systems do you have? How long do they last? And what will it cost to maintain, replace these systems in the long term? So really focusing on this kind of steady state of based off what you have now, how much are you going to need to be committing consistently with this long-term view on maintaining these systems. And to illustrate this, we kind of look at what happens to a road over time. So on the y-axis, you have cost, and on the x-axis, you have time. And so once a road gets built, at first, you don't really have to do that much maintenance activity to it, right? But over time, you have to start doing more things, preventative maintenance, resurfacing, and so on. But eventually, that road wears out completely and needs to be reconstructed, which has this big cost that needs to be considered. And then once it's rebuilt, this process kind of starts over again, right? And so the takeaway here from us is that a road or any other piece of infrastructure is forever, right? And when looking at the amount of infrastructure that the city is responsible for, there's 196 miles of stormwater drainage, which is enough to get you from Westfield to Louisville, Kentucky. And there's 587 miles of road, which is enough to get you to Roanoke, Virginia, right? So there's these significant amounts of infrastructure that the city is responsible for maintaining over time. In terms of how that looks on a map, here's the storm pipes. Right now, we worked with staff to get an understanding of current spending, and there's about $3.4 million being spent currently to maintain the system. Our analysis shows that long-term, what needs to be committed on average is about $3.6 million per year. For the road network and transportation system, current spending is at about $16.7 million. And again, this kind of long-term maintenance commitment is about $30 million. When you put those two next to each other, here's how they shake out. And then you can kind of combine them to get this idea of what's currently being spent on these two infrastructure systems versus what needs to be spent annually in the long term for this overall difference of about $14 million. Now what we do is take that infrastructure analysis and take other costs that the government's responsible for and put it on a map similar to that parcel map that we were looking at before. So here first are all of the revenues that the city generates from different land uses in the city. So things like stormwater charges, income taxes, property taxes, and the various other revenues. And here are the various expenditures that the city is responsible for. So general government expenses, as well as those capital expenses that we were looking at, and maintenance and operation. Then what we do is sink that into the ground and stack the revenues on top, and then look at it from the side. And so you can kind of get the side profile view of the city with revenues going positive and costs going negative, those expenditures going negative. When we net them out, we can see how these different land uses perform from this net perspective, this net per acre perspective, with a net position of about negative 13 million kind of long term for the city. And here's how it shakes out in terms of land area. 27% is net positive, 73% net negative. Here's what we call the worm's eye view, looking at the model from underground. You can see that there are a couple areas where there's kind of high expenditure, high net negative, but a lot of it is kind of just below the ground. And when we take it back to those summarized land use categories, here's how those revenues and costs compare for things from agriculture all the way up to multifamily. And when we net them out, you can see which land uses are net negative versus net positive based on our analysis. With multifamily, of course, being the most net positive. We were also asked a question about, well, what if there was this kind of vertical mixed use typology in Westfield? How would we expect it to perform? And again, yeah, though there was no example at the time of the analysis, we know one was completed not too long ago. We expect that mixed use to sit somewhere between missing middle and multifamily, but it would be really interesting to update the analysis and kind of include that newer use to get what the actual number would look like for Westfield. So that was kind of a quick overview of our analysis. So just a couple quick takeaways. The first thing that we would encourage is look for examples of productive places, both within Westfield and within some of your neighboring communities, and replicate them. And here's a good example of the Union at Grand Junction. Again, this wasn't completed at the time of our analysis, but we would expect it to perform quite well based off of our work. And then, of course, knowing your costs and consequences, keeping track of how different land uses perform, and recognizing that what choices are made regarding development in the city have this long-term impact. And as long as you go into these development decisions with eyes wide open and understand how they are likely to perform for the city long-term, then you can make those decisions with information and facts to back them up. And that was a really quick overview of our work. Thanks again to y'all and for REA for letting us partner with y'all to do the math on your community. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Any questions from council this evening, or Mayor, would you like to initially react?
Yeah, I don't think there was any surprises. It's the things that we've all been talking about since we took office that, we're missing commercial. We need more density, and these are things that this study certainly showed. So I think we understand the problem. We know where we need to go. But it's a good reminder that, we have some gaps. And if we don't start investing in the things I know we are all trying to do, those gaps will just get bigger and bigger, and we'll start to stranglehold our city long term.
Adam, just for knowledge for people watching or will watch or in the room, can you further describe what missing middle actually is for those that may not understand that?
Yeah, sorry, we didn't really get into definitions. Missing middle really kind of fits in between these two residential land uses that are extremely common in a lot of U.S. and North American cities. So you have single-family detached housing on the one end, and you have kind of more dense, large apartment buildings on the other. And there are a lot of different residential buildings that kind of fit in between. So that missing middle can be anything really from a duplex up to kind of townhomes or cottage court, smaller multifamily, smaller apartments. So it kind of runs the gamut, but especially in Westfield in our analysis, what we saw, some of those really productive developments are those townhouse style residential units that are bringing a lot of value to the community.
Would missing middle, though, also include, there are some neighborhoods that are a little bit more dense. You used Midland as an example. Now, you talked briefly on Midland's townhomes, but their density on a home per acre, would that also be potentially considered missing middle, too? Because, I mean, in some places, you got 10 feet. It's a single-family detached home, but there's 10 feet in between total between each house. Or would that be classified as traditional single-family?
I'd say it's still technically single family detached, but you are getting to nearly having this kind of townhouse style development where it's like, a 0 lot line or something like that. And you definitely see that those sorts of newer single family developments that have much tighter lots, or have much less space between the houses, do end up having kind of that higher average value per acre. So I think technically it would still be, single family detached, but you're kind of getting to, this higher density on average and getting closer to that sort of missing middle, or somewhere closer to that.
Because it appears right now the highest value per acre on the Midland is actually townhomes in Midland in our development, where you called out $14.6 million per acre.
Correct. Yeah. At the time of our analysis, that townhouse development on Midland Trace Loop was the highest value per acre in Westfield. Yes. Because
generally speaking, on value per acre, I don't know what the proper title is for what I call the fun map, which is the multi-dimensional map. If you look at it just by knowledge of the community, it's effectively in areas where we are more dense with high value of homes, whether that's townhomes or single family. It's primarily, you have it in the Southwest, you have it in kind of what I'm going to say northern, then you also have it in the Southeast, where you obviously have a couple different communities, and then you see a little red blip, if you will, where Midland's being built as we speak for the next several years. So those are some of the pieces that at least that jump out to me. The net position, though, of being negative of 13 million is concerning, but the other piece was that the net negative for both commercial and industrial. How do you turn that around from your expertise?
Part of it is well, first, you're totally right. When looking at that kind of rainbow map, we tend to see that the areas that are more dense have higher value per acres. So yeah, that's spot on. On kind of the net position map, to your question about industrial and commercial, again, the kind of more dense that you can get with those land uses, even within industrial or commercial. Industrial maybe doesn't lend itself to, more dense development, but commercial, you can have Main Street style development. And we typically see that sort of development pattern ends up net positive. And one of the other things to think about, it's less significant for the financials of Westfield, but it is an important consideration, is the role of sales tax and kind of sales activity in a community. So that is a benefit that commercial land uses bring. And so again, finding opportunities to create or allow that more dense commercial use, kind of that, classic, what y'all have some of in your downtown, that Main Street commercial. We expect that to tend to be net positive more often than kind of that lower density commercial where there's significant amount of land allocated to parking or kind of other unbuilt portions of those properties.
Yeah, you called out one project that's open right now, but we have 3 projects that have been approved, 3 different stages of construction or financing. Bring 3 different parking garages, all element of mixed use, medical office building, some other things as well. So over time, hopefully they're built sooner versus later, although people complain about traffic during construction, as it'll be pretty tough. But as those 3 projects come online, I mean, our downtown will continue to spike on a value per acre piece. I mean, those projects, though, overwhelmingly change. I mean, if you look at the Carmel map, which I think you did this work in Carmel as well, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you did. I mean, that Midtown Carmel land values, which you have in this presentation, are, I mean, frankly, off the charts as well from a value per acre.
No, that's true. Yeah, I would expect as those projects come online and kind of get more established in Westfield, yeah, agreed. There's likely to be some big spikes that are added to Westfield's profile on this value per acre model. Yeah, we did some selections. We didn't do a deep dive into Carmel, but we pulled some examples to show, hey, if you do this pattern of development, it doesn't need to be the same, doesn't need to be as tall, it doesn't have to have the same architectural characteristics or things like that. But when you start to see these types of developments, you can expect to see these types of value per acres, these types of productivities. So, you're right on that. Yeah, it would be really interesting to come back and, yeah, like I think it was the mayor who was saying that y'all are going down this path and making these choices to, provide this sort of development as an option in Westfield for the folks who are interested in it. You'd expect to see, yeah, some significant changes to Westfield's value per acre model. So no, it's exciting.
What's the impact of shared parking and commercial and so forth as we look to bring 3 more pretty significant sized parking garages on commercial values, that shared parking component that the city participates in?
Yeah, so parking garages, really the main way that we can kind of see them be a contributor is, if there are parking requirements or developers are, not even necessarily from y'all's end as a regulatory body, but from even like the financing world, they say that, hey, we're not going to finance you unless you provide parking. The benefit that parking garages offer is that they can kind of suck all of that parking into a smaller footprint that then opens up more land for that productive development. So buildings that don't need to allocate parking on their property because there's this larger structure. It still takes up space, and depending on how the county how that property's kind of assessed, how the value's assessed, it may or may not be that productive. But what it does is create space for more productive development by pulling what might otherwise be surface spaces and putting it all in one place. So that's where we really see, and I think in our work, that structurized parking helps create value by making space on other properties.
Councilor Waniger?
Yeah, just a few questions, a few comments as well. This here is in my way I look at this is a thorough, basically a plan looking forward into the future and developing a business plan for the city. A lot of municipalities work forward and move forward with development in their community, not thinking about the big picture and the impacts down the road. And I think this paints that picture very well. A couple of things you mentioned: the Midland and the Monon corridor. I really didn't talk about 31 or 32 too much. I think mostly probably 32 West, the Spring Mill Road. We've kind of lost opportunity there until that road redevelops down the road, probably not in our lifetime. But we have that, as you talked about and Patrick mentioned as well, the opportunity in the downtown area to improve that as well. Along the 31 corridor, if you could speak maybe a little bit about that, opportunities associated with that area. And as far as the density, you're talking about higher density in some areas. You're not talking across the whole city, specifically in specified areas and then outer areas as they develop to create what we've talked about, like community areas or burbs or those types of things. Or what do you call them, Mayor? You call them boroughs? Boroughs. So, developing those as we go along and strategically looking at those and placing those in areas that will serve communities or those areas around that. So specifically along the 31, I guess probably along 32 more in the downtown area, and then developing that out, not going too far into what REA has put together on the comprehensive plan, but how this and that kind of mesh and work together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the first thing that I'd like to touch on is, I think the second point that you brought up. No, we would never advocate that a place think about building, we're not advocating for building towers everywhere or something like that, or not even building towers in Westfield. It's about finding those nodes where it makes sense to increase density or find opportunities for incremental changes. So yeah, definitely you're right on that. It's not about doing really dense development everywhere. That's, it doesn't really make sense for most communities. Nobody wants, you don't live in Manhattan for a reason. You live in Westfield for a reason, right? And I guess to your question about, those nodes like downtown or opportunities around 31 or 32. Yeah, I mean, one of the things to think about with development, and you kind of mentioned it, is once something's there, it can be hard to do some adaptation or redevelopment. Once a development pattern is there, it can be a little more difficult to change what it is, depending on how it's laid out. So yeah, I think being thoughtful about the development that happens in areas that are currently undeveloped in Westfield is important. And yeah, the work that y'all are doing to think about that development moving forward is right on, and thinking about it in this kind of from this long-term perspective. And I think someone else brought up the question of the deficit, and that's not a now problem, but that deficit over time is kind of something that y'all want to think about with how you do your land use, what developments you approve, how to start eating away at that deficit over time. It's not like you're in a hole right now, but moving forward and really from that long-term kind of 40, 50, 60-year perspective is where we're coming at with. That's the commitment that's been made with the infrastructure that's in the ground now. That's what's going to need to be paid kind of in this more ongoing fashion, and thinking about that, having that as something to help frame the development decisions that y'all make moving forward is kind of where we advocate for that. So did that answer your question all right?
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments from council this evening? Mayor, anything else?
The only thing I would add is we were talking about the missing middle, and I'll be honest, I'm shocked that those townhomes are our best assessed values in the city. But when you talk about HB 1001, we've been talking a lot about it in the community. There's a reason that HB 1001 surfaced, because the state recognized, and it's a national problem, that we have a missing middle right now. And I know we as a city have fought a lot of the townhome type developments that come before us. And I just think we have to rethink this, that first off, our kids, I can tell you my oldest daughter is 23 years old and she's in an apartment in downtown Indy, loves the walkability the city provides, but she's talking about her first home, and it's going to be a townhome. It's not going to be a home, single family. Most kids these days are not going to be able to afford a single family home, especially in Hamilton County. The national average now is saying that kids coming out of college won't be able to buy their first single family home until they're 40. So we really got to think about this missing middle, and nobody wants it in their backyard. I get that. But we have to really think it through, or we're going to continue to be a community that has a huge missing middle, and we're going to be a community where our kids won't be welcome until they're married, they have kids, they got dual incomes, and they can afford to be a member of our society. So I just wanted to capitalize on the moment he brought that up. And oh, by the way, they pencil really well for our city. So it's a good development that we need more of in our community.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Carr, as well. Greatly appreciate it and look forward to talking to you here in the future as well.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to old business next here, which is ordinance 2513, which is Town Road Crossing PUD amendment. We do not have Ryan this evening, but thank you. Dane.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department, standing in for Ryan Collingwood this evening. The item before you is for adoption consideration is the proposed amendment to the Town Road Crossing PUD, which was originally established in 2007. The amended real estate comprises of approximately 144 acres located south of State Road 32 and generally located northwest of Little Eagle Creek Avenue. Since the item's recommendation vote by the Plan Commission in December, the petitioners compiled an extensive commitment document that would tie the developer to specific requirements that must be implemented on the real estate. Some of the major requirements include aesthetic enhancements to the State Road 32 frontage along the commercial area, further modifications of the permitted and restricted uses in the PUD, as well as additional enhancements to architectural character of residential uses, which John Dabashewitz of Nelson and Frankenberger can provide additional insight into these momentarily. As mentioned, this item is up for adoption consideration this evening, and Mr. Dabashewitz will provide this presentation.
Thank you, Dane.
Good evening, members of the City Council. For the record, John Dabashewitz with Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the applicant Platinum Properties Management Company. This evening with us is Paul Rio of Platinum Properties and other members of our development team. To provide you a brief summary of the commitments as well as where the project stands today, I'd just like to take a few minutes. The area along State Road 32, which is the subject of the additional real estate, is approximately 26 acres. It's outlined here, and two additional parcels along State Road 32 there. One of the intentions of the amendment is to update the format and content of the PUD so that it aligns with the current PUD ordinances, including the State Road 32 overlay, addresses the proposed development vision for the subject to real estate, as well as the realignment of Town Road. Town Road, as you can see from this parcel right here, was intended to swing further west, intersect the school property between Centennial and Town Road, and then come back through. However, the realignment takes it more in a straight line with the existing alignment Town Road, as you'll see from one of the next diagrams. The commitments that Dane had mentioned were distributed to the council in the middle of last week, and then they were updated and distributed over the weekend in their final form. I'd like to take a few minutes to review a summary of those commitments and want to thank Council Members Dart, Mr. Herron, and Mr. Dupner for the time they've taken in working with us. This is a concept plan for the development, and the amendment, including the associated communities, will limit auto-centric uses along the commercial area along State Road 32. So this area here, Town Road, Centennial, that area along the frontage of State Road 32. The number of drive-through restaurant uses would be limited to a maximum of 5. In addition to that, there would be limitations as no more than 7 total between those and multi-tenant buildings on the real estate. There'd be a minimum of 2 multi-tenant buildings and 3 if this parcel that we surround were later incorporated into the PUD. An anchor building, this is Town Road, this is the parcel on the east side of Town Road. There'd be an anchor building provided there, which would be a minimum of 20,000 square feet. That's not a CVS, it's not a medical use. It would be another anchor type of retail tenant with restrictions on uses in that place as well. There shall be no more than 1 fuel station. A fuel station is planned at Town Road and State Road 32. Additional commitments further prohibit uses such as tire sales, oil changes, liquor stores, and auto sales. Those are all uses that would be prohibited within this commercial area. There's also residential commitments that apply to the area to the south. And those residential commitments include requiring a minimum of 3 builders. No more than 40% of the homes could be constructed by 1 builder. There's additional character imagery and as well as masonry requirements applied to all homes where there'd be masonry on all four sides of the dwellings. And there'd be a separate HOA that would regulate the townhome space within the development. The total number of permitted homes was also reduced by a small number, by approximately 8, but there were also restrictions placed on the maximum number of single-family homes in areas A, B, and C respectively that was not already in the PUD amendment ordinance. Rental restrictions, the developer was also asked to agree to rental restrictions. That cap is 10% rentals. It was originally drawn in as 15%, and a request was made by council as well as administration to reduce that number down to 10%, and that was agreed upon. And there was also enhancements made to amenities within the development, both along the Midland as well as internal to the site. And finally, with regard to aesthetic enhancements along State Road 32, the developer was asked to, and the owners were asked to include and incorporate aesthetic enhancements. We couldn't reach a final conclusion with regard to the design of those, so the images that you see on display now are part of the commitments, and there's an agreement in the commitments that there would be no building permit issued in the commercial area until the council were to adopt by resolution a final enhancement plan along State Road 32. The imagery represents a design theme which will further enhance over time. One of the things that became a challenge from time of consideration was the incorporation of mounting and elevation changes, in particular along those frontages, so you don't see in that perspective mounting that would be enhanced as well along the frontage, as well as hardscape areas, including seating. That was another element that wasn't worked into the perspective drawing that you see at the top of the image. Again, I really appreciate and want to thank again council for working with us on this request. We would ask that the council consider adoption consideration this evening. With that, I'll conclude and be glad to address any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any questions, comments, Councilor Harry?
Before you sit down, can you address the comment that was made earlier?
There was a comment made, I don't know if staff has the ability to pull up page 14 of the ordinance, and where ordinarily open space isn't allowed. Here, let me do one thing before you do that, Kevin. There's 3 home sites that exist along Little Eagle Creek Avenue right here, and there's other area that's in the flood zone opposite their property line that is wooded today. And that's the space right here. You see that dashed line that represents the flood zone and where the existing trees are on that site. And there was just some discussion about a desire on the part of those owners to purchase that real estate. And what the developer agreed to was to include provisions that would allow that open space to be privately owned rather than owned by an HOA or held in common. So that was a change that was made back in November, or actually earlier than November. And the anticipation is that with the adoption, potential adoption of the ordinance this evening, that we would receive from those owners, or at least one of the 3, a purchase agreement, a request to purchase some of that area that would be the flood zone based on their desire to own it. The zoning just establishes the opportunity for that to exist. It doesn't compel those owners to buy, and it doesn't compel the owner of the real estate to sell. It just gives the opportunity for it to be privately held in the future rather than as a common area within the subdivision.
John, how does that affect the overall green space that's required with your development?
Because it was an allowance that's different than what is prescribed in the UDO, it would just allow that area, if purchased and privately held, would still count towards the open space provisions and minimum standards in the development. So it wouldn't count against us if it was sold to the adjacent owner in the event that it was.
So for the gentleman who spoke earlier, is this your understanding? Are you aligned? Is this meeting your expectations that there's an opportunity to potentially purchase the property if the developer is willing to sell the property? I think so. I think is that appropriate?
Mr. Hughes, you can. Yes, sir. Please, thank you.
Without speaking to the other property owners, there's actually 4 of us, not 3. I think that that's amicable, but we need clarification. That's pretty ambiguous. Well, we may be able to purchase, we may be able to acquire, they might sell. That doesn't leave a real warm, fuzzy feeling. I would like to have that under contract, spelled out, checks, all the boxes checked, Because once this happens tonight, they can go, I don't think so. You know, they could change their mind, or like I said, they could say, okay, you could buy it for a very over market price. So I would like this to be discussed or at least noted in official capacity, our desires, our concerns of this development encroaching on the backyard and the wildlife impact, for us to have that opportunity, which we've made that clear from day one when this came to you last year or even before. That's just our concern. But it would be amicable if we had something, a purchase agreement. Just so you know, I could present a purchase agreement. I'm a broker. However, I don't know, it could be $1. It could be, 30,000 an acre. I don't know what's agreeable, but we haven't had that discussion, and they really have kind of kicked the can down the road till I don't want to get past the opportunity that we have here tonight, and then it just be a foregone conclusion or just not
And
happen.
if I might weigh in, sorry not to catch up, I don't think the city wants to demand a sale. I don't think we want to get in this world, gents. I just don't think this is something the city should be involved in. This is two private landowners working through a contract. I really don't feel comfortable with us codifying something around the sale of land.
We're not, I don't believe that's what we're asking for. I think there was a concern brought up by Mr. Hughes. There was comments made by John Debasevich. And I think as far as I'm concerned is, do we have two groups willing to speak after this discussion and have an amicable meeting and discussion about possibilities? And that's, I think, all you're asking. To the mayor's point, we're not going to guarantee anything. The council can't guarantee anything's going to happen. But I just want to make sure that lines of communication are open, because I don't know you very well, but I know the team. They have worked with us extremely well, been very open, very transparent, and I would hope they would operate and deal with you in the same manner.
Mr. Rio, are you available? You're standing up, so I figured you wanted to talk. Well, Paul, if you want to.
I was going to say, Paul, even before you speak, I'm not against it, but the person that buys it after you that wants to go in there and log it all out and clear it all, now all those residents are going to be upset. So I've got concerns about that. I mean, I would require that land be put in a conservation easement, have restrictions placed upon it, and a lot of other things associated with it. Not only, you're probably not going to do it, but somebody down the road could. And that's a whole nother issue.
And I agree completely. And that's why our desire to purchase that doesn't prevent the HOA. Mr. Rio has great intentions. He builds a great product, but once that HOA takes over, they can go in and start doing all kinds of stuff that we don't have control over. And that's where, as a property owner, I can put restrictions when I do go to sell my property. I can put that on my deed. So that can be addressed, and that is a concern. And that's what it's all about, is conservation and buffer for the development, for us to not be encroached on, and for it to have clear delineation. Because as you can see, that is a little ambiguous when you get out there. But the woods line is the woods line. And keep in mind, on the other side of the woods line to the west is that sewer easement, which so that's even further protection to the addition. So I'm all for giving them their space for allocation for green space for this, but with the approval, we'd like to acquire it and control it just for those very reasons that was just talked about. So it doesn't get logged, so it doesn't get clear cut. It's in a floodplain, and I don't even know if you could, because the trees absorb a lot of water. They hold soil erosion down, and it's very needed. And we don't have a lot of it here in Westfield anymore.
I would just say this, I don't think this vote this evening, whether it's for or against, is going to affect your ability to negotiate at all. So, I mean, you said once the HOA takes over, but that's going to be many, many months down the road before that ever takes place. So if there was a approval vote today, negotiation can still happen.
Well, the largest HOA owner, if approved today, would be the developer. And he can place a conservation easement commitment on that tonight that basically will put that into that conservation ownership. And you could register with DNR. I mean, might want to ask your lawyer.
We're kind of in unusual territory here, but we appreciate Mr. Hughes for being here. But I think if, Mr. Rio, if you can speak here as well.
Yeah, for the record, Paul Rio, President of Platinum Properties. This goes all the way back to the original public hearings with the neighbors, and this was raised as, you know, can we buy some of this area in the back? My position was absolutely we can talk about that, but I have to make sure that it's not counted against me in the common area calculation. So, you know, when we go through all this math and we say we have X amount of common area, I can't turn around and sell it, and then the city thinks I bait and switched them and sold the common area. So the conversation is, sure, we'll be happy to talk to you. One of Mr. Hughes' neighbors, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, called me a couple weeks ago, asked where we were, and I said, I'm not zoned yet. I have really nothing to talk to you about until I get through the process. And when I do, I'll be happy to meet with you and work in good faith. And I've worked in good faith with neighbors for 30 years. So I'm not expecting this to be a big problem. I just didn't want it to count against the math that we do as part of the approval process. Mr. Hughes is right. It's, you know, it's floodway, it's wooded, and we have no, it was always going to be, you know, common area of the neighborhood, and we don't have any desire to do anything with it. So I'm sure he doesn't either. So it's just a matter of getting together after this is done. I have no, one of my ex-partners always said, I caught a fish this long. It's like I didn't know what the other line was. What am I zoned for? What am I entitled to? What am I working with? So
I think in John's earlier comments, at least I caught it, was we have to go through this process first, then move forward from that step.
And we did put it in the ordinance. There's a provision that says I'll work with the neighbors and talk to them about, you know, purchasing. So I didn't put that in there to tell them it was $500,000 an acre. I put it in there because I'm responsible and I expect to work with them.
So, I mean, it's even written that you will work with neighbors in the ordinance as well.
Exactly.
John, can you direct the folks of where that is, though, too, just for Mr. Hughes and others?
Yeah, it's on page 13 of the ordinance under section 10.1B. And the other provision to the discussion about tree preservation, that's already specified within the ordinance. It's on the top of page 13 under section 7.4B. That section requires that that area within the flood zone remain as tree preservation. So whether it's owned privately or as an HOA, the trees within that area are protected, and that would be enforcement action on the part of the city if whomever were to take action in that space, but we would anticipate it either way.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments this evening?
Just a quick vent, because I'm frustrated with this whole process for this particular development. It's been almost a year since the proposal was introduced to council last March. And the process for me personally was just incredibly frustrating sitting on APC. There was a reason why I received a vote of no recommendation to APC. Now, at the final hour, commitments are being made after leaving APC. So if we go through the entire process, we give them a 90-day extension, they wait until the final hour to make these changes, then what's the point of the process? Again, there was a reason why I got no recommendation at EPC, because it was just difficult to work with throughout the process. I wish this came up sooner than now, but I'll still just be voting no tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening? Seeing none, this is eligible for adoption this evening. We would need a motion and a second.
And President, can I quickly add that some of these commitments, correct me if I'm wrong, have not been made to the APC yet. They would be being made for the first time to the council. So whatever motion is made, you'll want to make sure that you incorporate the written commitments that were discussed.
The written commitments, though, are in the document, though, that's in front of us, though, too, correct?
Yeah, the one that was submitted over the weekend, right? That's the most current version.
Yeah, the copy that was transmitted to the council and is on record as an attachment to your ordinance this evening under the agenda is identical, and that's what we're asking for your consideration of. So we're requesting adoption of the PUD subject to the signing and the recording of the commitments and provision staff.
I just wanted to make sure it was on the record since they were not specifically made. They have been changed since it was heard at the APC.
And is there any like statute that this PUD has changed significantly enough since APC reviewed it that it would have to go back to APC? Because I've heard that before, but I mean, are we confident that it hasn't changed enough that it would have to go back before them? Or like what makes that decision, I guess?
I would have to look into that a little more, to be honest, since I was not involved in the process at the APC. I think that's kind of the point of the whole system, how it has like a first read and then it goes through APC and there's changes and it comes back for a second read. But I would, to be honest, have to do some checking to see what the statute says.
I'll weigh in a little on that too. I think the PUD ordinance itself that the Plan Commission voted on has not changed, right? That is the same. What is new this evening is additional layer of commitments that the petitioner is volunteering outside of the PUD ordinance. So it's really not something that would impact the ordinance, if that makes sense. It's an additional layer of restriction.
I mean, I would argue that the concept plan and the commercial along State Road 32, I mean, before it was just a gray block, and now there's a whole plan there. So I would just say that that's a pretty big change on top of reduction of houses and stuff like that.
And I can weigh in, if we're just talking about the commitments, there can be commitments made specifically to the APC or the council when it comes back to you. There can be additional commitments, they can be changed, they can be more strict. If they're more lenient, then it all does have to go back to the APC, but here it seems like, from what I've heard, the commitments are actually more strict than they were, so it by statute does not have to go to the APC.
Definitely more restrictive.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
If
we
they were less restrictive, it would actually have to all get back to the
Right.
APC.
This project, when it first came before us, was, for lack of a better term, loose. It's been really tightened up, really looks good. And as Mr. Dobasevich has mentioned, Noah and I and Joe have spent considerable hours working with them, keeping the rest of the council up to date on the changes and modifications that have been made. And I think we've reached a point where we believe this is a PUD that should move forward.
And if I just might add, I mean, for those in the room that have no idea what we're talking about here, this is an old development from back, I believe, early 2000s, maybe 2003, 2004. When I ran for office, when these gentlemen up here ran for office, we heard very resounding from the community that nobody liked how State Road 32 was developing. Well, what you see in the original PUD, it's actually worse than what you're seeing near 31, because it's old. And the city, it was a town, and they didn't really have a vision for 32. So, the council's in between a rock and a hard place. They've got an old development. If they say no to this, well, then they can just fall back to the old development. They don't get some changes they're looking for, but the old development doesn't even have architectural standards for the buildings on 32. They could put up wood shacks, and we can't say anything about it. So they're in a rock and a hard place. If we had to start from ground zero, would this be a development we would create from scratch? Probably not. But it is a compromise, and a lot of work's been spent by several of our counselors, Joe Deppner, John Dart, Noah Herron. I don't know how they're going to vote. I haven't talked to them about it, but I know they've put a lot of time into this to make it better. Is it perfect? Nope. Is it better than what it was before? Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate Brian Cardinal and his team for being patient with us, because he certainly didn't. It's not his fault that we're where we're at. But I do believe the council has worked really hard to make this a much better project. And the architectural standards on 32, we're setting a new standard that we're going to hold future development to, which is a huge upgrade from what we've seen in our community. And I never even thought of that when these guys started meeting. I commend the council for really putting some creativity into this, because it's a much better project. So I just thought, I saw a lot of eyes rolling in the back of their heads. This is kind of how we got to this. It's been a very long process. It's been very painful. I appreciate what Victor has said as well. There's been a lot of friction, but I do believe we've gotten this to a much better place. So thank you for everybody who spent time on it.
And I would second a lot of those statements. We hear a lot in the community about State Road 32 and how it currently was developed and how we're going to change that. And we were kind of stuck here with an old PUD. And so it was just either not work with the developer and take what we could, or try to be creative. And we limited a lot of uses that we already have in Westfield, as you see through the ordinance: tire shops, oil change facilities, things like that, limiting drive-throughs and so forth. So we did our best to try to, make lemonade out of lemons here, for lack of better words. there is some more things coming along State Road 32. We try to be creative, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I thank the developers for working with us through this to try to make this unique. I look forward to seeing that plan and the fencing and the berming on how we're gonna, I don't want to say hide, that's not the idea for commercial development, but work it into the design to overall make it look better than some of the things we currently have.
The only thing you guys missed is chicken places and donut shops, because I hear a lot of complaints about those two. We should have put those restrictions in as well, but it is what it is.
Councilor Dart finds that a key item of his menu.
Jeez. Almost his birthday, be nice.
And I'll just say, I didn't find this process frustrating at all. The developer, anytime I called them, picked up the phone, we had great conversations with their attorneys. So as long as you keep open dialogue and thoughtful conversation, they continue to work forward and move forward with you as well. So I appreciate their efforts.
And I do appreciate my fellow counselors' efforts, and the language is better, admittedly, but again, the point being, all of that should have been in the PUD instead of a commitment right now. Much of that language is what we deal with at APC all the time. So again, that's just the frustrating point for me. And yeah, the original was approved in 2007. It was an F project then. Now, just because it's improved a little bit, I don't say we necessarily need to accept it. In 2022, an equestrian facility with 25 lots. We could have had that here. But that unfortunately did not work out at the time, even though I was for it. So again, it's always, careful what you ask for. We could have had something better previously, and now we're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Regarding the additional commitments, Victor, you sat up here before and you've made commitments on developers that were not in these ordinances. So by sitting here and saying that is being two-sided. So don't agree with that. I'd like to move forward with a vote.
Motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Dart, seconded by Councilor Herron by a nose. Any other discussion this evening? Seeing none, may we call the roll?
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Hoff.
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
No.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you. The next item of business is Resolution 26102, which is fiscal plan for ordinance 2605, which is the annexation preserve at Coal Creek Phase 2. This evening we have Mr. Crabtree.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to pinch hit on this one. So, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. For the record, Kevin Todd with the Community Development Department. Make sure I have the right notes here. So this introduction will also apply to the item immediately following this item on the agenda, which is so this is for the fiscal plan and then also the adoption of the corresponding annexation ordinance. So this item before you is a 100% voluntary annexation request for the land described within the Preserve at Cool Creek Phase 2 annexation, which is approximately 4.7 acres in size. Parcels are generally located on the south side of East 191st Street, just south of the first initial Preserve at Cool Creek annexation phase that you just saw earlier this year. This item and its corresponding annexation ordinance are up for adoption consideration this evening. Matt Skelton with Church Hill and Antrim is here this evening in case you have any questions. I don't believe he plans to present. All right, so with that, thank you.
Any questions, comments this evening? Seeing none, we need a motion and a second for consideration.
Make a motion to approve resolution 26102, fiscal plan ordinance for the preserve at Coal Creek 2.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Wanninger, second by Councilor McCarty. Seeing no other discussion, may we call the roll?
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Hoff.
No.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
The next item of business is ordinance 2605, the annexation and preserve at Coal Creek Phase 2. Kevin, you just want to be brief on this? I mean, this is in tandem.
Yeah, this is in tandem. Nothing, no new information. It's tied to the item you just took action on. This is the actual annexation ordinance.
Thank you. We need a motion and a second for consideration this evening.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2605 for the annexation of the preserve at Cool Creek Phase 2.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Waniger, seconded by Councilor McCarty. Seeing no other discussion, may we call the roll?
Joe Deppner,
Yes.
Noah Herron,
Yes.
Chad Huff,
No.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Patrick Tam,
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger,
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Our next item of business is in new business. This is a resolution which is eligible for consideration this evening, which is Resolution 26109, authorizing the cancellation of warrants, stale checks. Our clerk treasurer, Marla Ayler.
Good evening, gentlemen. From the end of the dais, I can tell you this is a pretty standard statutory compliance issue, kind of a housekeeping thing. Anytime we issue checks that are never cashed by a various vendor, what have you, this is not money that is owed to someone for like salary or any kind of deposit of a utility. This is just checks that have never been cashed, and we can no longer get a hold of the people to cash them, or they can't find them, or they don't come back to us. The total out of the stormwater fund is $1,056.66. There's also a check out of the general fund for $1,125, and we'd just like to get them off the books. They're more than 2 years old. Do you have any questions?
Bartley, the only question I would have is if somebody comes back later after that check has been canceled, can they still seek restitution for that?
I think we'd have to go through the motions to find out what it would be for.
Yeah, I mean, the statute does say that every 2 years in December, so exactly what's in the document. So we'd have to dig into it, but that's what the statute says we have to do. So that would be a hard argument for them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, conversation this evening? This is eligible for adoption this evening. We need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve resolution 26109 for the cancellation of warrants.
Second.
A motion made by Councilor Waniger, seconded by Councilor Dart. Seeing no other discussion, may you call the roll?
Noah Herron,
Yes.
Chad Huff,
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Joe Deppner.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. 7-0.
The next items are ordinances. This is their first reading, none of which are eligible for adoption this evening. The next item is ordinance 2606, which is annexation of Chatham Ridge. This evening we have, I believe, Director Todd doing
Me
this
again,
one.
Yep. Yeah, thanks again for the record, Kevin Todd, Community Development Department. This item is another 100% voluntary annexation request for what is being called the Chatham Ridge annexation. This parcel will be developed as a single-family residence. It's approximately 7 acres in size and is generally located on the west side of Chatham Ridge Boulevard, as shown on the map on the screen. This item is noticed for a public hearing this evening, has been properly noticed and advertised for that. It will be eligible for adoption consideration at your first March meeting, where this will come back with the companion fiscal plan resolution. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions this evening, conversation? Do you need to open this up for a public hearing this evening at 8:18 p.m.? I don't do the public hearing. Councilor Waniger chides me for not wearing my glasses, so. Seeing no comments this evening, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 8:18 p.m. as well. This will be potentially considered for final adoption on March 9th, 2026. Ordinance 2608, which is a Trace Commons PUD, this evening as well. Now we have the pleasure of Mr. Crabtree revisiting us this evening.
Yes, good evening, Council. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department, once again standing in for Ryan Collingwood this evening. The item before you this evening for introduction is the proposed Trace Commons PUD, a change of zoning request for approximately 17 acres, generally located on the south side of State Road 32, west of the Bonterra development, and north of the Midland Trace Trail, east of No, that's west, never mind. This project proposes a mixed-use development incorporating commercial, residential, and is amenity-heavy with significant activation of the Midland Trace Trail with 2 physical connection points and other community-focused programming areas. The project will also incorporate a roundabout at State Road 32 and Shady Nook Road. This item will have its public hearing at the March 2nd Plan Commission meeting, and representation from Churchill and Antrim is present this evening representing the developer, and they will provide an overview of the project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Matt Skelton with Churchill and Antrim with offices at 116 North Union Street here in town. With me this evening, Attorney Lisa Claghorn from my office, and also Peter Murphy from Level 2 Development, the developer here. We are excited to present to you our concept for Trace Commons. The project teams worked closely with the city over several weeks now to refine this proposal. We've spoken with nearly all of you, I think, at one point or another, and some additional refinements based on feedback we've received are in process, and that not all of them have been able to be made prior to submission. So I will try to highlight those as I go through my presentation. As some of you may be aware, the majority of this site, and Kevin, it might help. I think I have a. It's the one. It's all right. It's the one labeled level. Yeah, while you are, yeah, the one that says L2. Oh, can I use this? Yeah, if you can. Thank you. So the larger portion of the site, which is basically the western 2/3 of the site, everything west of the roundabout, is zoned GBPD today. Everything east of where the roundabout is shown is zoned GB. This area has been zoned this GB for decades, GBPD for decades. It's not a zoning classification many are familiar with. It's actually somewhat interesting, but the city before there was an enabling statute that told you how to do PUDs, and the city engaged in that activity, and they did it under that zoning classification. So it's kind of an old holdover zoning classification. But for all practical purposes, it's essentially the same as GB within this context. A GB district does contemplate higher intensity commercial uses like lawn and garden centers and building supply companies, and more high intensity retail such as big box superstores and automotive uses and things like that. The Trace Commons proposal before you substantially restricts that and introduces quite a few enhancements to what would otherwise apply here under the zoning regulations today. Number one, the underlying zoning classification proposed is the LB, or local business, neighborhood business classification. So it substantially addresses, well, I think it entirely addresses all of the land use issues that I just went through. We also prohibit drive-through facilities which would currently be permitted on the property. There are heightened aesthetic requirements introduced in the PUD, along with some thoughtful transitioning, moving from the south along the Midland Trace Trail, which is located, this does work. Midland Trace Trail is located along the south boundary of the property. We have lower intensity townhomes proposed here. And as you get towards the center of the site, mixed use with retail, local business retail uses on the main floor with residential above. And then as we get out towards 32, we transition to commercial, local business commercial. I've got some pictures that I'll just quickly zip through here. These are the townhomes along the Midland Trace Trail, and before anybody gets excited, one of the recurring themes when we spoke with folks is a desire to preserve as many of the trees along the Midland Trace Trail as possible, and we do intend to do that. If we showed them on this exhibit, you wouldn't be able to see our townhomes as well, so they're not included. And then this is a perspective exhibit of looking really to this is looking out towards 32, mixed use here, commercial near 32 here, and this is one of the many aesthetic or amenity areas shown on the site. This is a view from the Midland Trace Trail right here. Mixed use, mixed use. And this is a view from 32 looking into the site with the commercial up front. Mixed use here. Townhomes you can't see, they're back behind. It is. I guess they're supposed to squeak. Anyway, I will, yeah, the total estimated investment with this project is approximately $80 million. There's approximately 27,000 square feet of commercial space proposed on the site, which would accommodate 5 to 10 new local businesses. The types of tenants that we expect are specialty restaurants, coffee shop, specialty market, and fitness and wellness type of studios. So they are commercial businesses, but they also serve as amenities within the development as well. I think Dane pointed these things out, but there will be a roundabout as part of the proposal. I'm sorry, this thing is squeaky. There we go. Roundabout, this is located at the intersection of Shady Nook Road and State Highway 32. There's also a couple of significant Midland Trace Trail connections, not the least of which, and this just doesn't do it justice, we'll do some zoom ins, but there's a plaza area here with a bike station, and we showed some of the perspective views earlier, but when you're looking from the trail into the site, this is a people space. This is a people space here, plaza area. This is a water overlook raised area here that is a people space, and so is this. There's also an extensive plaza area planned in this area, and this is designed to be closed off for events and special gatherings. And I've got a picture that has been put together that illustrates that really well. I'll try to get there without squeaking. There we go. And so this just shows, and I know, Mr. Wanninger, you're going to tell me I have to park an armored car out here, but that we didn't want to show that. But this is basically a people space that can be a plaza, open patio between the restaurants and shops in this area. We have received some additional comments from folks, and I'm going to go through a few of them, and there may be others too, and we're happy to respond to those. But tree preservation, I think, was one. So we are providing tree preservation along the entire west perimeter of the site, the entire south perimeter of the site, along the Midland Trace Trail, and then select other places where we can do it and have them live within the development. We were requested to provide connectivity to the west, and that is in our plan. It's not reflected on this plan, but there is as many of you know, there's a self-storage facility. It's an older facility here, and then over here, farther to the west, is the Kroger Center where Wendy's used to be, and so there's a frontage road behind where Wendy's was, and it would basically connect one day. If the self-storage were to ever redevelop, it would be able to connect there.
Wendy's is still there.
No, I know, but I don't think you can get a burger there.
Yeah, it
Did it
reopened.
Reopened? Oh, good. Good to have options. Thank you. So we are going to accommodate the connectivity to the west, and that will be reflected clearly in materials going forward. Also, we've had a few different folks offer up some suggestions for what I would characterize as internal site design suggestions, and we're trying to reconcile those and make sense out of those. And Mr. Wanninger, I know we received some from you, and we've got some from the city too, so that's part of this exercise, so we'll be working on those. We were also asked, I think, to limit the number of banks that we host on this site to one, and we are happy to do that. That has not been done yet.
Is that monetary or donuts?
Huh?
Is that monetary or donuts?
Donuts. Yeah, gotcha. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out that we are planning to host a neighbor meeting tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. at the Westfield, Washington Township offices, which is the building connected to the new library. So level 2, their whole team is excited about this Westfield project. They're really kind of blown away by what's happening here in Westfield, and we look forward to working with you folks as we go through the process. So we welcome any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Skelton. Any questions, comments this evening?
I look forward to working with you on this one. This is in my district, and I'm not thrilled with the residential piece. I like the designs and stuff you're showing on the commercial. I like that aspect of it. My biggest concern so far is this roundabout proposal, because we've got Cary, Gunther, and now you're proposing Shady Nook to all be roundabouts in a quarter mile of each other, which to me is just too close to be having 3 roundabouts. So I guess we'll further discuss, but it just seems like a lot of roundabouts in a short amount of space. And in between the roundabouts, we then have right in, right outs. There looks like to the east of the or west of the roundabout, and there's also one right to the east of it too.
Yeah, this would be one, yes, correct. So I'll rely on people that know a lot more about engineering than me to convince you, so.
Okay.
And for just those in the audience regarding the future infrastructure plans with State Road 32, the website is improvetomove32.com. NDOT's held several informational meetings over the past couple years. I do know that this has been a hot topic, point of discussion during those meetings with some residents wanting it, some maybe not, but I think for the most part, a lot have wanted it. And in the current plans today, this roundabout is not accounted for. So if we do want it, then this would be the only time we could be able to address this intersection. So just wanted to offer that up a little bit of history with the improvements.
I'd also be interested to know if your client would be interested in more townhomes along the Midland after what we kind of heard earlier, instead of an apartment on the east side. So
We can discuss that for sure.
Obviously, this is an introduction, but I think Janelle Fairman can also talk briefly about the incentives that are potentially being considered as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. Janelle Fairman, Executive Chief of Economic and Community Development. We've been working with the developers for quite some time on this development and have worked pretty extensively to help them find the best way to balance the development of the site and the costs of this type of development with the needs of the community. And we've really pushed architecture, we've really pushed walkability here, and have really, I would say, done a good job of preserving a good amount of the existing trees, especially along the Midland Trace Trail, and creating an opportunity for people who are utilizing the trail to come into the site and take advantage of the retail by foot, by bike, for people who live here to be able to access those businesses as well. This type of development, while it doesn't have structured parking, is probably most comparable to what has been built or what is currently under construction at the Ambrose project. That project was approved in 2024, it had 100% TIF applied to the project without structured parking. This project, we were able to accomplish the 60-40 split with 60% of the TIF going to the developer, 40% being retained by the city, and that 40% portion that would be retained would partially be used to fund the roundabout on State Road 32. I think this project is a great win-win for the city, creating some opportunity for some income for us to apply into our downtown area and other improvements along the Midland Trace Trail. Happy to answer your questions that you have. I'll have more details on the financial package as we come back to you for bond approval, probably later this spring.
I'd just throw in there, since you brought it up, and address Noah's question. I think if we're going to make changes to this based on what you just said, that let's circle back to Janelle, because I don't know this answer, but my guess is you take out apartments, add in townhomes, maybe that split goes higher towards the developer. So, you know, that's things we have to weigh, right? Do we want to give up 100% TIF to do a project? Do we want some taxes out of it? Very complicated, this development, a lot of moving parts. So just circle back to Janelle before we totally chop this thing up, just to make sure we all understand the ramifications of that.
Certainly, and there's more than one right answer to developing on a site like this, so we can certainly work through some opportunities.
If I heard you correctly, you said 60% is going to the developer for surface parking? Is that?
No, 60% is going to the developer to incentivize the project. The difference between this and the downtown projects is that those are structured parking versus surface parking. It's not that 60% is paying for parking.
Okay.
The 60% helps pay for the gaps that they have in the overall project financing. That can be attributed to some of the infrastructure that's required. You know, there's the detention that's here. We have enhanced architecture. There's just, you know, additional cost of building multi-story buildings versus building more of a sprawl condition where everything is just a big, wide open parking lot. So all of those things start to add up, and, you know, that value that we're creating for downtown, that increased assessed value per acre that we receive as a benefit to the city, we help compensate the developer for those investments that are being made into the city itself.
And then the 40% was going to pay for the roundabout.
Not the entire 40%, but we would use the 40% that we're retaining to help fund that roundabout. The balance, and I can get you more information on what that balance would be. I don't have that with me tonight, but the balance of that we can apply as it comes in to other improvements in our downtown area within the downtown economic development areas along the Midland Trace Trail.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? This is just an introduction this evening. So just seeing no other questions or discussion, we'll move on to we'll move to the APC. We'll move on, thank you. We'll move on to ordinance 2609, which is the 199th and Monon PUD amendment. Mr. Crabtree.
Yes, for the final time this evening, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is an introduction for the first proposed amendment to the 199th and Monon PUD, which, as you may recall, was approved at the September 9th City Council meeting last year. That aforementioned project was approved for 120 single-family residential lots on the north side of 199th Street. Only 105 of those 120 permitted lots ended up being approved through the petitioner's overall development and primary plat process. This proposal would add approximately 7.5 acres of real estate to the PUD, it's shown here on the screen before you, while keeping the previously approved maximum lot count at 120 intact by only permitting up to 15 lots shown on the concept plan. This item will be before the Plan Commission at their March 2nd meeting, and there was a neighborhood meeting that already occurred on February 19th. John Dabashewitz of Nelson and Frankenberger, on behalf of Onyx and East, is present this evening to give a brief presentation.
Slow down. The introduction presentation. That's fine. No, we're good right there, and then scroll it down to the next one already. Again, council members, good evening. For the record, John Dabashewitz with Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner Onyx and East, and present tonight on behalf of the petitioners are Nathan Harris and Nick Vodich. You'd think with a name like Dabashewitz, I'd get that to roll off the tongue, but I can't.
I really appreciate that exchange right there. Thank you.
Jim Schooner, attorney with our office, is also present, and as staff indicated, by way of general background, the 199th Street and Monon PUD was approved on 39 acres last year, and it's outlined in orange on the upper display, if we can scroll up. So that area in orange is the 39 acres, which is the existing PUD. The area that's the subject of tonight's discussion is 7.5 acres located on the south side of 191st Street. There's a dog leg in the street right there, and it's outlined in yellow. If we can go to the next slide. This next exhibit shows the site plan for the north side as well as the south side. On the south side, the text amendment parcel site is an infill parcel surrounded by 3 subdivisions, Aberdeen to our south and to our east. To the north and west is part of Chatham Hills, and then of course to the north is the existing portion of 199th Street and Monon PUD. As staff indicated, there were 120 lots approved for the development on the north side of the street, only 105 of which were included in the development plan that went in front of the Plan Commission. Therefore, as part of that discussion earlier last year, the accommodation for 120 lots along 199th Street was vetted. It was vetted with Public Works and with the communities which surround us, many of which the same notices went out because of the project ownership. The text amendment seeks to incorporate this subject real estate into the 199th Street and Monon development and remain at 120 lots, adding no additional lots, just at 120. Next slide, please. This is the site plan for the text amendment parcel. As you can see, access will be from 199th Street to our north. A pond's located along the eastern portion of the site with lots surrounding to the west and south. Based on public comment letters that we've been provided by staff, I think there's about 15 of which have come in so far. Neighbors had questions or comments about tree preservation and the existing trees on the property. There is a 40-foot buffer planned on the west perimeter of the site. This site to our west right here is owned AGSF1. The other surrounding parcels are R4 residential where a buffer is not required. However, to our west perimeter and south perimeter here and our east perimeter, we're still proposing a 20-foot tree preservation area in that space in addition to the 40-foot buffer along our west perimeter. As a reminder, the home product in these next couple slides is consistent with the product that was approved in Area A for the existing PUD, includes 4-sided masonry and other streetscape diversity standards as well as other design requirements. Onyx and East anticipates home square footages will range between 2,700 and 3,100 square feet. That's finished space above grade, so if there's a basement and any finished space there, that's on top of that square footage, and they would anticipate starting prices in the 800,000s. In conclusion, we did have a neighborhood meeting. It was conducted last week. I think Mr. McCarty attended that meeting. It was on February 18th. 6 people attended that meeting from the surrounding community. The public hearing is scheduled for March 2nd, and after that March 2nd meeting, we'll begin to take under advisement all the comments we received from council members, as well as the Plan Commission and the public. And I want to talk just briefly about one of those particular comments that was called to our attention, and this is going to help us do that, this exhibit right here. You can see there's a 90-degree turn here and here along 199th Street. And one of the objectives here is to be able to straighten out that curve, not completely, okay, but it's going to take the hard turn out of it. And we're currently working with Public Works to see what that site plan would look like. It's likely to cut into the very corner at the northwest side, so you may see some revisions to this plan which knock down those hard turns and add pedestrian improvements along the side of the road so we get people off the street and onto sidewalks, as well as provide for a little softer curve in the road alignment of 199th Street. So we're taking that into consideration. With that, I'll conclude. Again, March 2nd for our scheduled Plan Commission public hearing, and then after that, we'll likely be back in front of the council in late May, early June for adoption consideration. Thank you.
Any questions or comments this evening?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Mr. Dalbo said, it is hard to say. I was at the neighborhood meeting last week. About 6 people attended, and surprisingly, APC-wise, we have received between that 15 to 20 range of residents, whether it be directly adjacent to the property or in the surrounding area, having concerns regarding the tree preservation. So because of that, I went out on Thursday. I had some conversations with the neighbors. I walked the property myself, so the petitioner knows this, and I measured the west side, the south side, and the east side from the neighbors. Quite honestly, the 20-foot tree preservation, as I told Jake, it's almost about spot on the west side because that's all the trees that are there. But then when you get on the south side and the east side, that's where we can have some improvements there. So looking forward to having the continued discussion through APC, trying to just preserve as much as we can. But yes, as was pointed out, that northwest corner, one way or another, there's going to be trees that are cut down there just because of sure safety with the 199th. So again, looking forward to seeing it through.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments this evening? Seeing none, we thank you, and we look forward to working through the process.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Council comments. Councilor McCarty, APC updates?
Yeah, just briefly, on our consent agenda last week, we had the Gateway at Lantern Commons, which we approved last year, and Story Cottage, which I'll provide additional information on this. It's located on 151st. This was the parcel left out of the Kimblewick Phase 3 amendment that we approved last February, and the use was already permitted, but quite honestly, this was probably the best possible outcome for this parcel. It's a low-intensity memory care home, and you're preserving a majority of the trees there, so that really worked out. Workshop items, we had a presentation for the Hortonville sub-area plan from staff, and then we dove into more discussion regarding Ironstone. That was it, and I do just want to offer one thanks to the county. There was an issue that popped up 2 weeks ago where they were going to adjust the intersection, Eagletown 186. It was not well received, and so through communication with the county, I was at the commissioners' meeting today, and thankfully that's going to become a four-way stop instead of switching the stop signs. That is out in the county, but it's just outside of my district, so I'm very thankful for the county of adding additional safety near our borders. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council this evening? I do think we have two young residents that have sat through 2 hours of testimony. One looks like he's about to take a nap, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, sir. But Mayor, any comments this evening?
Well, yeah, you're lucky because I've got a lot of comments tonight. So hang in there, young man. It gets better. A couple of congratulations. We got a few hockey dads up there on the stage. Our JV hockey team won the club state championship. I don't know if you guys noticed, but hockey is getting really competitive here in Westfield. And it's not unusual for our club teams to win state, so congratulations to them. Connor Maddox, we've got an invite out to him to come see us so we can recognize him in public. But he's one of our wrestlers. He had an undefeated season and won the state championship this weekend. Incredibly difficult to do. Congratulations to Connor. Just some updates at the State House. Thank God they are going to, the session ends at the end of this week because it's been a rough one for municipalities back-to-back years. HB 1001, I think we'll know more tomorrow, be finalized, but Section 19, which was chocked full of goodies that really just cripple us, has been completely eliminated. Everything else we were able to opt out. So it's going to be a toothless bill, which begs to differ. Why would you pass a bill that nobody has to follow? But that's for the State House legislators to figure out. The bad thing is when they let you opt out like that, this will probably come back again down the road. So I'm not 100% comfortable with it, but we're in a much better place. SB 270 is a bill to merge, eliminate, preserve township government. It's all in one. It will impact us in the long run, probably not in the next couple of years, but I would highly expect sometime in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to be having conversations around merger of our city and our township, at least from a government perspective. And then the last one is SB 4, has a lot of changes proposed to SEA 1. There was some really bad stuff that got thrown in at the last minute, and they got taken out, I think, today. So I'm not sure there's anything in there that's too dramatic, but it's something we need to pay attention to. But for you council members, I'll give you guys an update when the session is over to give you just a rundown of all the impacts. But other than that, it's back to winter here in Westfield. Be safe getting out of here. Be warm, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Wrestler?
I've heard you were watching the game somewhere. You guys got like a